CM Punk has been making the media rounds to promote his role on Stephen Amell's new wrestling show Heels, and his role as a police deputy in a new horror film called Jacob's Wife. And he had an interesting response to a challenge issued by the new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Will Ospreay. In his first press conference as champion, Ospreay called out Punk, saying, "Before I was champion, a man who sparked a whole lot of interest in pro wrestling, CM Punk, said that he would like to face Will Ospreay. Now I have the biggest prize in pro wrestling, so if you really want to prove that you were the best in the world and not the best of a bad bunch, come over here and try and take this." Punk talked to Digital Spy and had this to say about Ospreay's comments. "I don't want to give people false hope in answering Ospreay, but he's for sure somebody that I have never wrestled before that interests me a lot more than, I guess, the corporate side of professional wrestling nowadays. New and different things are going to interest me more than doing the same old, same old. I always need new goals. I don't know. Let's see if he has it at the end of the summer and then ask me the question again." Speaking to Sports Illustrated, Punk added this about a possible return to the ring. He said, "I don't need the money, and the way the wrestling business is now, it's wacky. You've got WWE, who has multiple billion-dollar television deals, and the television's awful. I go back there, I'm just another guy, and it's not even that. I would be just another guy that's doing not good television. I want to do stuff that's good. I want my name attached to quality projects where it's fun, and it makes people laugh, smile, think, and people don't hate watch. I want to do fun stuff." People have asked Punk the question many, many times over the years, are you going to come back? When are you going to come back? Would you go to WWE? Would you go to Japan? Would you go to AEW? And he's never said no. He's kind of like Steve Austin in that way. Austin never closed the door until recently. Now he does. But for years, Austin was smart. He left the door open for people to think that there was a chance that he might come back and wrestle, even though in his mind, he probably knew, I'm not coming back. Once we got past the 10-year mark, it was probably pretty much a done deal that Austin wasn't going to come back, let alone now. I mean, we're coming up on 20 years of Austin not wrestling. He ain't coming back. But Austin would say, well, never say never, and, if I wanted to, I'm sure I could get another 2 or 3 year run out of me, and if I feel great, I could come back and wrestle. So he gave people a lot of false hope sometimes by saying that. Even with Punk, when they had the video game promotion for 2K, what was it, 2K11 it might have been? That great segment, that sit down with Jim Ross. I mean, if that didn't get you excited for a Punk-Austin match, then nothing would. So Punk is kind of doing the same thing. When he was on Renee Young's podcast not too long ago, he was more open in that interview than ever before talking about a potential return. He said, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know. He goes, I'm open to it. He even sounded open to going back to WWE, but there would be some, repairing that would need to be done to those bridges. I don't think that Punk has closed the door to a ring return. I really don't. And I think he absolutely could come back. I think a CM Punk Will Ospreay IWGP title match at the Tokyo Dome with the hype behind it would do big business. If their New Japan World subscription skyrocketed for Jericho coming in to face Kenny Omega, I think the first big Punk match in 7 or 8 years would be just as big. Now, I know that Jericho already had a name in Japan and Punk doesn't. He doesn't have the experience working there that Jericho did. But if I'm New Japan, if I'm hearing that answer, he could be stringing people along just to keep him talking, and it's smart of him to do that if he is, but if he's being serious, and I work for New Japan and I hear that, come August or September, if Ospreay is still the champion, I've got it marked down on my calendar to reach out and say, hey, you want to do this? Let's make it work. What's it going to take? I think if Japan can get to a point with COVID, because they're imposing more lockdowns now over there, it's getting kind of bad again. If they can get past all of that, coming out of this, however many more months it takes, if there's an attraction similar to Jericho and Omega that they think they could realistically put together, that they think would really spike interest and spike business, then they have to do it. They have to at least try. The match itself could be very good, whatever you think of Ospreay. I mean, he's a tremendous in-ring performer. He's one of the best in the world. With Punk, he used to call himself the best in the world, but you don't know what you're going to get. He's 42 years old. And aside from maybe a few surprise shots at random indie shows under a mask that he's been rumored to have done over the years, as far as we know, he hasn't wrestled a match since 2014. But it would be a huge attraction for, say, Wrestle Kingdom 2022. And if you don't like Ospreay, you don't like Punk, that's fine. But, if you're a smart person, you put that aside and realize that, that could do some big business. And if you don't at least make the effort, then you'll never know if you can make it happen or not. I think the success of the Jericho and Omega match should have New Japan, putting some kind of plan in place to, in a few months, see if Punk is being serious or not.